Kerala is majorly a consumption-driven economy and not a production-driven. It is majorly dependent on informal sector, sir. That it is not able to retain the youth in Kerala, sir.
But I want to ask you, which other state of India is able to employ its own youth fully? From which other state are youth not leaving, not just to go outside India, but even scurrying for jobs within India?
What do you think India has not done, sir, correctly?
I've been concentrating on growing the top line, growing the GDP, growing, bigger industries, a more socialist communist model, which is not Kerala's model also.
Yes, sir.
That the rich are protected at all times. A person who joins a company as a CEO in the United States, he signs at the time that he joins, he requires the company to sign with him an agreement that should they fire him or the company has to be restructured and he needs to go on, he will be given a golden parachute, as they call. And so they get millions of dollars at the time of departure. In addition to all the very high millions that they earn per year while they are CEOs. Whereas the wages at the bottom, especially for, let's say, blue-collar workers or even white-collar workers who are doing routine tasks, are so low.
Sir, Kerala presents an interesting development paradox, sir. On most of the human development indicators, whether it is health, whether it is education and other social security parameters, it is doing exceptionally well. But the youth of Kerala are not finding sufficient jobs and they are migrating either outside Kerala or to Middle East or any other part of the world to find job. And Kerala is majorly a consumption-driven economy and not a production-driven. It is majorly dependent on informal sectors and remittances. So what is Kerala doing wrong, sir, that it is not able to retain the youth in Kerala, sir?
Yes, Julie, thank you very much. The question you asked is why the youth from Kerala are migrating out of the country when Kerala is a state which is a very high development indicators, the highest in India. But I want to ask you, which other state of India is able to employ its own youth fully? From which other state are youth not leaving, not just to go outside India, but even scurrying for jobs within India? Kerala has got migrants from, Kerala's way south, you've got migrants from all the way in the northeast and the east and from the north working in Kerala.
Yes, sir.
Right? Yes. So the youth of Kerala have started to earn higher incomes based on their higher education, higher skills, higher incomes. So other migrants have to come and do their jobs. Now you can ask the question, why do the youth of Kerala have to go outside India to find jobs? So the question is, why is India not generating enough jobs for its highly educated or best educated youth? If you look at the statistics of unemployment in India, those persons most unemployed or the cohort that is least employed is graduates and postgraduates. Unemployment is lower amongst illiterate people.
Sure.
Right? So, incomes in Kerala per capita incomes have also risen. Incomes per capita on average have risen much less in most other states of this country. And so Kerala's all-round development has been good. But the pattern of growth of the Kerala economy is such that it within itself is not generating enough jobs for the youth. And please remember that the population of Kerala has also been increasing, though of course Kerala brought down the replacement levels, fertility replacement levels, much faster than other countries, even faster than China. So we have to ask ourselves the question
So,
differently. Why is an economy, how come an economy doesn't generate enough jobs for its own people when the people get higher skills?
So what I meant to ask is that when we talk about industries, so when we talk about FDIs, most of the states which attract it is either Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Maharashtra or Gujarat. Very few of the FDIs happen in Kerala, because of which the jobs for highly skilled people are not there.
No, excuse
So,
me. That's not true. The people who come to invest in India look for low cost labor. So if they had to find a site in India where the labor costs are the least and education is sufficient, well, Tamil Nadu is going to be a preferred site, not Kerala. Yeah? With labor costs at the bottom are higher. Kerala's people at the bottom earn quite a lot through farm incomes, yes, and other local services than farmers and small informal sector entrepreneurs would do in Tamil Nadu. So don't look poorly at your own state. It's a rich
yes,
state, yeah. It's a rich state. The question is, why are economies not generating
so,
enough jobs? And this is true not just of India as a whole, even in the United States. The problem for them is that as they are growing and they become more, if you will, high tech, they are not generating enough jobs for people at the bottom of their pyramid. Or the jobs that they are generating at the bottom of their pyramid are sort of menial jobs, which migrants come and
yes,
do.
sir.
So same in Kerala, migrants are coming and doing the jobs which are paid less.
Yes, sir. So you believe that decentralization it enhances innovation, and in one of your LinkedIn posts, I read you compared India and China, sir, and you said China believes in growth from a bottom-up growth and believes in growth from its in its villages. What do you think India has not done, sir, correctly in the past?
You answered it. You answered it. We have been concentrating on growing the top line, growing the GDP, growing, bigger industries, a more socialist communist model, which is not Kerala's
So,
model also.
yes, sir.
Okay, and Kerala has been communist socialist, which is why the human development indicators are much higher in Kerala than other states. Also, the education of youth and the education of women is much higher in Kerala than other
So,
states, right? So it believes, like China, that unless the people at the bottom find that their lives are being improved, their quality of lives are being improved, they are not going to be happy with their state, their government.
yes, sir.
And so the communists of Kerala keep getting elected. I don't know how many years have passed,
Yes,
decades.
sir.
And everywhere else in the world, communists hardly get elected. Kerala is
Yes, sir.
consistent.
True, sir. So, in fact, somewhere I think it goes with the values of Tata, where you've served for a long time and you worked alongside JRD Tata, sir. And in one of your posts, you mentioned he believed in fairness to all stakeholders and pursuit of excellence and respect for the dignity of all human beings. So here the first point, fairness to all stakeholders. This is one point which I think that incorporates a small change if they bring in, there would be a much more inclusivity. For example, when it is lower level and middle level managers, most of them, they get something known as incentive and bonus, and senior officials get fixed pay. Now, if a senior official puts up his or her paper, they get paid for what they have earned or have worked, whereas a junior and a middle level official has to forsake whatever incentive or bonus they had worked for if they have put papers, say, in that financial year. They have to forsake it, and they're penalized for it. And they say that this is the company policy. I made a post also around this on my Instagram handle, sir, that this is a kind of an inequity which adds to the already concentration of wealth which India is seeing. 1% has 40% of the nation's wealth. But these small changes which if corporates do, I'm sure that, this inequity will slowly, gradually, at least it will be a one step towards bridging it. This
I'm going to, keep using models of something which is generally applying everywhere. So in this question about, you're saying that the rich are protected at all times. A person who joins a company as a CEO in the United States, he signs, at the time that he joins, he requires the company to sign with him an agreement that should they fire him, or the company has to be restructured and he needs to go on, he will be given a golden parachute, as they call. And so they get millions of dollars at the time of departure. In addition to all the very high millions that they earn per year while they are CEOs. Whereas the wages at the bottom, especially for, let's say, blue-collar workers or even white-collar workers who are doing routine tasks, are so low, And those are the sort of people you're talking about. If they are fired, they might be lucky to get a few weeks. If they are fired, that is, compensation. And if they choose to leave, you can forget about it. It's your choice.
Yes. So this capitalism has so got ingrained in the system, sir, that somewhere, as you say, you are a proponent of Gandhian principles and Gandhian values. It is time that has to be inculcated for a holistic growth of the nation, sir, instead of just seeing it as you see through the lens of GDP alone.
Yes. So what must change in our economic philosophy, the philosophy of economics that we are applying to, develop the growth strategies for our economy? What must change, you're saying, is something more like a Gandhian philosophy. So what is that philosophy? Gandhi ji said that until the poor people in the villages can hold their heads high and feel they've got freedom in their villages, opportunities in their own villages, no matter what their caste or religion, to earn decent incomes, or with their own enterprises get decent returns. And there'll be small village-size enterprises catering to the village or nearby villages, and other villages, enterprises catering to your village. So you have a very dense web of economic activity at local levels. So it's the density of the economic webs constituted of many small enterprises clustering together. It's like, a lot of bees together. Yes. And it's a very, very rich place with everybody in it being their own master, their own mistress. It's my income, my life, my enterprise. Which, coming back to Kerala, this is what the remarkable thing is. That in Kerala, it's the women who feel most empowered. Because you did mention the HDI being higher, but I think the other thing, which is very, very clear about Kerala, that the women within families in Kerala and within communities in Kerala really hold their head high.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they're not going to be bullied by a man. just because they are a woman. They can. I mean, men being men and larger in size and so on, and they don't know how to get their way through communicating well, through showing kindness to others and therefore getting kindness in return. They just want to force their way and say, you do it or else I'll beat you up. Like Donald Trump, if I might say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Arvind Kejriwal in Delhi tried this thing known as governance through mohallas, and for 2 tenures he served the people of Delhi, and people were kind of quite happy. Yet he was voted out, sir, with a person who spent a large amount of money on education, on sanitation, on health. But because that place is also under the jurisdiction of LG, and land not being under the control of the chief minister, law not under them, police not under the chief minister of Delhi, yet he managed to do all of this. But the people rejected them. So do you think that India as a country has not matured to discern between good leadership and a not so good leadership, not a very good leadership?
See, I keep looking elsewhere. We talked about Donald Trump just now. And what a role model he is of a good leader, is he? He's a role model of what a real bad, awful leader is. Donald Trump got elected with a majority of the vote, and the second election, no one, the Democrats and nobody complained about unfairness. The system, the people elected Donald Trump. So, you have to ask yourself this question. There are many people in the United States, evidently, who like Donald Trump, who did not like the Democrats and Joe Biden and all those nice, kind people, or relatively kinder people. They didn't. They were looking for something which Donald Trump said, I can give you. Now, what that is, therefore, you have to ask the people in the United States, why do you like Trump? Why did you vote for him? And these surveys are being done, and you understand that Donald Trump is giving people, those ones who felt deprived by these liberal elites, highly educated liberal elites on the two coasts of America, on the east and the west coasts, who look down on their own people. They call their people who are in the middle states of America rednecks or uneducated worker people, farmer people, not educated like us. So the educated people of America thought of themselves as superior than the others, and surely the others perceive this. What's wrong with me? And Donald Trump came up and said, yes, that's exactly what is wrong. These Bidens and Democrats and Bill Clintons who've been to Yale and so on, they think of you like as white trash. And in fact, Hillary Clinton even said so in her election campaign, the white trash. Imagine, she just got white men completely against her, and white women also. Some, not so many women as white men who said, I will not support this woman. So it turns out to be, then she said, oh, see, in America, no woman can get elected. So we start to find all sorts of reasons for losing the election. We have to look more deeply, what is it what the people really want? What is it that the people really want?
Yes, sir. And see, sir, India is already suffering from unemployment. To add to it is the way we are getting automated with the invasion of AI. And very soon, as like the richest man on earth says, that we would not require people to work and the state will provide them money. but the rich people are not ready to part with their money. So, and at the same time, he says, the human population is going down. He is contradicting he is contradicting himself by saying all of these. But what we are seeing is that the rich are getting richer, and India, having a humongous population of poor people, are becoming poorer. Now, in such a situation, sir, how do we salvage our economy and the people? More than economy is the people who are the have-nots. What is the economic model
You know,
which is sustainable?
right, economic model, good. But you said something a little before, the people of India are getting poorer. They're not getting poorer. Okay, income levels, average income levels have gone up in India since our independence. They are, in the first few years after independence, they already were quite a bit higher than they'd been during the British time. And this has gone on. There's been no period in India's history since independence where people became poorer than they were before. They were always getting richer, sometimes more richer than before, and then sometimes less rich than before. So the growth of incomes has followed an upward line with some, ups and downs through it. Okay, now let's look at a longer period therefore. Starting from, let's say, 1947 onwards till now, or the 1940s onwards till now, after the Second World War, when China also, yes, had broken out of its turmoils and the occupation by the Japanese, broken out, and we got rid of the British. We both started as very poor countries, people very, very poor. China poorer than India. And this went on, that China was growing its incomes of people and overall GDP, and so was India. In the 1980s, India had got further ahead than China by a little bit. Now people say, well, you see, in the 1940s, late 1940s, China was poorer than India, so China became richer compared to its past, more than India had compared to its own past. So poverty levels were reducing faster in China than India, even during those years. But that's not so interesting because the differences were not that great. It's after 1980s, something diverged. We, like I said, were similar in terms of per capita incomes in China and India. We are same size populations and have always been 300 million at the start in the late 1940s or 50s. Then we are now a billion and plus, the only two countries of that size. So here, therefore, that's a similarity. Two poor countries of the same size. What changed after the 1980s? One took off relative to the other. We kept increasing our GDP and we kept reducing our poverty. It's not that we became poorer after the liberalization than we were before. Of course, we got better off. But in China, the people became remarkably better off. Today, incomes in China are 5 or 6 times per capita incomes higher than India's. So at the bottom, people are earning more, they live in better surroundings in their cities and in their villages. They have much better healthcare and education services, and which, by the way, the healthcare and education, the public health and public education, was always ahead of India's, even during the dark ages of China and India after 1947. So it was the Chinese emphasis on improving the well-being of people, which comes back to what we were talking about, the communist socialist model of Kerala, the emphasis that unless people are finding that their own lives are being improved, they are not going to be happy with their government. So who do people vote for if you're having a fair election? They would like to vote for the government that is helping them to improve their lives. But that's not the only thing that politicians ask them to vote for. They say, vote for me because I am of your same caste. Vote for me because I'm of your same religion. Or in America now it's coming, vote for me because I'm a white. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, and let's get the whites and rally around. And the larger proportion of the white vote, therefore, is with
Yes,
Trump.
sir.
Okay, at the bottom of the pyramid, it is so. So, election is no gauge of what it is that the majority is wanting to have. So, in the case of Kejriwal, which you
So,
pointed out, there's a very interesting threads in the story which is illuminating what has gone wrong with multi-party democracies all over the world. Here was Arvind Kejriwal, who, like you pointed out in Delhi, but I had uh, gone
so,
and met him in, it's 20 years ago, when I came down
so,
from Davos. I'd been up in Davos to present at the World Economic Forum some scenarios of what is happening in India and what sort of policies we need in India to enable all Indians to feel that they are contributing to the improvement of their own lives and the lives of others around them. Like
yes, sir.
fireflies.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a little light, I'm very small, but I'm going to use my little light, which comes from within me, my
Yes,
own energy. It's not given to me, it's within me, and it will lighten up
yes, sir.
some darkness around me. And many, many fireflies, so arising, can change a whole dark scene into light. So, bottom up leadership, which is not trying to make most for itself, but most for its family, most for its community. That model of, you may call it bottom up growth, is the one that lifts up everybody. So the Kerala model is that. Now, we come back to the whole of India wasn't happy when Kejriwal joined Anna
Yes, sir.
Hazare and society rose up and said there's corruption in our government everywhere, at all levels, bottom, middle, at the top, is too much. The politicians at all levels, they are getting more powerful and more wealthy, and though they're supposed to be representing us and uplifting us, they are really just uplifting themselves and neglecting us. So that was the spirit in which Anna Hazare, and I said a few other people around him, like Kejriwal, of course, said, let's rally a movement of
So,
change. And people came out of all classes. Middle class people came out, upper middle class people came out, held candles and marched in India Gate and all thing, non-violently like Gandhiji's time, said we will not take this any longer. It was a non-violent movement. And Anna Hazare imitated Gandhiji and also went on fast unto
yes,
the death in Ramlila
yes,
grounds. And the politicians were highly alarmed, okay, and they came, a delegation from with Mukherjee, Pranab Mukherjee, led to think to Anna Hazare, okay, we'll give you what you want, which is a Lokpal bill that even people in the parliament can be indicted for corruption, and they will not therefore remain in parliament until they've been cleared of their corruption. And there'll be an independent person who will look into it, the Lokpal. So they say, okay, yes, we'll give you that. So please stop your fast. So he did stop his fast. But what happened then? Within the parliament, the Congress side and the BJP side, they all jumped up and said to Arvind Kejriwal, you think you represent the people? We represent the people. After all, we got elected through a democratic process. You have got the people's support through rabble rousing. If you want to be constitutionally acceptable representative of the people, you must stand for elections. Create a party and stand for elections. So, yes, Arvind Kejriwal said, quite right, I respect democracy. Our constitution I respect. Sure, we'll form a party, the Aam Aadmi Party, and we will go out and campaign. Go out and campaign. They did. And like you said, in Delhi, his party got elected. Surprise, everybody was surprised. This upstart party, no big money bags,
yes, sir.
in it, but they were getting money support from Indians, even in America, who said we want a different
Yes.
country, a fair country, clean politics. And he stands for Mr. Clean. He was called Mr. Clean, clean politics. So he was able to get up there. But he found that as he had to come for re-election and re-election, a lot of money is required to even reach the people, to communicate with them, to go, which you're required to do as a
Absolutely.
leader. You must communicate with people and all the time. So you're required to use social media. You're required to have loudspeakers and jeeps and all the rest. This requires money, and any other party that has much more money is able to control the communication process, or dominate the communication process. And through those communication channels, they can start saying many things to make people doubt your values, means Arvind Kejriwal's values. That actually he lives in a palace also. After all, he used government money to improve his this chief minister's house. Okay, and some allegations like this. Now that is fires doubly. You see, on a person who stood up on a ticket of being Mr. Clean, any
Yes.
doubt on that score, then that person is not worth supporting as the leader, because he was elected on the
Yes,
values.
sir.
Now, here's Arvind Kejriwal, and I met with Arvind Kejriwal, as I said, long before. He'd even formed Aam Aadmi Party, even before he joined Anna Hazare's movement, when I came down from Davos. And here was he in Sundar Nagari, across the Jamuna, in Delhi, in this very poor basti, where he was rallying the people locally to get what was their fair due. The people who were poor had ration cards, and they were supposed to get with their ration cards a regular supply of the basic foods that they needed. And the ration cards would, shops would say, but it hasn't come, the supplies. Come again next week. Meanwhile, the whole supply system, they were diverting the cereals and stuff, which was to go to these ration shops to be sold at no profit. There was a fixed price, and they were diverting and selling them in black market to other richer people who didn't have a ration card, who said, I'll buy it. So those supplies intended for the poorest were reaching richer people who did not need. And so they cheaper food, and they were willing to pay a higher price to person selling. So his profits went up, the distributor, the
Yes.
retailer. And so this was the corruption in the system, systemic corruption that Kejriwal and his people were fighting. That's how he had credibility in the Aam Aadmi Party, I'm sorry, the Anna Hazare movement, that he had demonstrated that on the ground he was standing for the right causes and leading the people to get for their own rights, that was local, getting it. So this is the model that he grew up with, of how to lead and how to make change. When he formed a government, which was so quickly after coming out of the Anna Hazare movement, he said, I don't know how to run a government.
India is trying to even economically and militarily better. Why? Because tomorrow we do not know who's going to come and try to take us or overpower us. This is the fact which is happening today. So in such a kind of a situation, does Gandhian way of governance, is it sustainable, sir? Because somewhere we have to show our teeth and we have to show our claws. Otherwise, the big fish will literally take us, and we will not be there. Like a case in point, Venezuela. Before that, it happened in Panama.
No, wait, no, but Julie, again, just because the time is short, I get the point that at the moment we are not respected. We don't have enough power to challenge a bully. So there are two ways to do that. One is immediately challenge the bully. I mean, you'll
Yeah,
get swatted. And that's why India is being
of
wise and
course.
not, annoying Trump too
Yes.
much. So he doesn't, but he is picking on us nevertheless because he wants to bully us. He's increasing tariffs on us like anything. And we should, given some people say, be practical, after all, there's such a big power, he can bully you even further, given, which some countries have begun to do. Yes, you can't sustain it. You are right. Venezuela said, we will not be bullied. It is our country. We may have chosen to be this sort of a socialist country, semi-communist country, but that's our choice. After all, the United Nations Charter says that every country's government is sovereign within that country's boundaries. It is those people's decision about the form of government they want to have. If they decide to have a single party governance system and they're happy with it, so be it. You may choose to have a multi-party democracy and you should be happy with it, and so be it. You can't force your ways onto others. ठीक है? So here we are in this very strange situation in the world, Julie, that the country which was saying that we are promoting democracy around the world, its version of democracy, that is the United States, is you must, get rid of any single party governance system, or like the Baath party governing in Iraq, because that's a dictatorship. And so they would feel about the Soviet Union that it should be not run by the Communist Party as well as China. Get rid of a single party governance system and install multi-party elections. So their requirement of the country becoming democratic is very quickly you must have an election and we'll help you run an election. So they did in Iraq.
Yes, sir.
That's the most recent example perhaps. And we can go back in history about where, like in Iran, long back, it was by an election that the king was deposed and they had a elected prime minister who was a communist, who said that, look, this British petroleum, it is just squeezing out all our oil wealth and we are getting nothing for it. It is ours, it's our land. They're taking our oil and giving us nothing. And he got elected, very popularly elected, fair election. The US and Britain didn't have a problem with the election and the democracy. They had a problem with the fact that they no longer could have monopoly access to that oil. And so they threw him and got in a Shah, a non-elected person. So what is this democracy that they say they are defending? They're just causing havoc. And so right now, the US itself is having a problem with this democracy. It says, look, we've got a president who we've elected and he's destroying every democratic institution. And there's China on the other side, I'm pointing out, which says, look, we're a stable society. Today, the young people of China, and all these surveys done by Pew, they are very happy. They are happier with the communist system of China, or the single party, they're not communist, China, than their parents were. So the parents had this problem that the system wasn't perhaps delivering enough, and they were being told, the parents, that it's a bad system, it's a bad system, it's a bad system. No, Mao's time was much earlier. The US, even until 1991, kept saying that China's bad, and even after that, after 1991, after the Soviet Union was destroyed, and Soviet Union became non-communist, became so vulgarly capitalistic, and such rich people, and corruption in the Soviet Union. But China didn't. China stayed its course. We said we will be socialist with Chinese characteristics, and we, India, was bullied by the United States only then, and its institutions, the IMF, bullied to adopt capitalism with US characteristics. Now, Gandhiji had always said that he doesn't like communism and he doesn't like this Western version of capitalism, because he said in both systems, the workers who produce the results have no say in how their institution is being run. And so as you started, Julie, talking about what you liked about working in the armed forces, as a contrast to the private sector in Bangalore in India, is that in the armed forces, your rank might be low. Your level of education, if in case you are a Jawan or a non-commissioned person, may be less. But for things that matter in the work to be done by you, you are consulted and your view is taken.
And tactical decisions,
You're
absolutely.
not being instructed from the top to say, मैं कह रहा हूं तो ऐसे करो. Don't argue back. That's maybe a Donald Trump's way, as he told everybody. If you dare to argue with me, I'll send more arms and take over
He
Greenland or
told
whatever. Having
Macron
done
also.
so in
Yeah,
Venezuela.
that is the thing.
So it's a very non-Gandhian way of running the world. So to your question, I'm afraid the world is not going to be alive if we persist with this non-Gandhian way. The only way that is sustainable is the Gandhian way. So we're asking the wrong question. For India to be able to, while there's a bully, to build its own strength,
Yes, sir.
Atmanirbhar, it has to build its own
Yes.
industries. You pointed out that an ambassador, Indian ambassador in China came back. He happens to be our present foreign minister, Jaishankar. And he's the man who came back and told us in the Security Council of India, to which I was invited as a planning commission member, gentlemen, there were many. India is becoming a colony of China. And you're startled. You say, well, what is a colony? It takes the cheaper things from you and adds value with its own people and sells them back to you. And then you have to buy them because you can't make them yourself. And so at that moment, we're not buying defense equipment from China, but we are buying everything else, and so is the rest of the world. And now we say, yes, in India, we should have also built our defense equipment. And here I would say, I was in the
So,
planning commission, Julie, and yes, increasing production in India, make in India, was my brief. The defense sector was kept out of the planning commission because it's a
so,
sovereign sector. It's kept out. But I could see the same problem because when we were told, I was asked as a former management consultant, why is it our aircraft production in Bangalore is so tardy and so weak? And the reason we are asking, they said, is the Indian Air Force doesn't wish to buy aircraft produced
HL.
by HAL. It says it's far better to get American or French or some other aircraft, because you have to defend the country, you better have the latest equipment. Agreed. So the customer has to be right, and you must respect if your defense people who you're
True,
holding
sir.
responsible for saving the country say, we need that to keep you safe, you have to give them that. So if they say that our own Indian equipment is not good enough for the defense purposes of India, we have to respect it and say, okay, we will not, rather than supporting HAL anymore, it's a public sector production unit, we will go to France or ask the US if they'll kindly allow us to
Transfer of technology.
have their aircraft plus also the technology or the latest aircraft, which they wouldn't. And so this is where
Yes,
we
sir.
got stuck. Now we've sort of waking up with the present government, thank goodness. And yes, encouraging the private sector also
Yes,
to
sir.
get involved in the defense production. And I'm happy to see that now they're saying this big transport planes with the Spanish,
No,
the
we have
Airbus
had
joint venture
Tejas
with my old
aircraft,
group
which is
partner.
state-of-the-art technology, sir. So it's a fifth generation fighter.
I know the Tejas was a story that was being told to me. I went down to the HAL and I heard along with the former cabinet secretary at the time, who, by the way, is then, at that time was cabinet secretary also. He was then the chief of the Kerala
So,
Planning Commission, Chandrasekharan,
yes, sir.
wonderful man. He said, Arun, we have to understand what is the difficulty our public sector people are having. And this came there that no one wants to respect them or encourage them. Anything, any small mistake that they make, it says, देखो हमसे होता नहीं है. Why are we wasting our
Yes,
time? And they're not so well
absolutely.
paid as foreign people, but their spirit is like we've seen thereafter in our own space mission. I mean, those people, those scientists, they do it because करके दिखाएंगे
सर जैसे आपने
कि हमसे होगा और हम इसकी
लाइक यू
उम्मीद
डिड
नहीं
इन
है.
टाटा
Yes, and
मोटर्स.
that's also Bangalore. Yes. Yes, but that's where I learnt it. Yes, absolutely.
सर
And so, I do see that it's the spirit of the people, and we have to foster those people who say, it's very hard, I know, with less resources, but I don't want you to give me the same resources that the other people have because the government, you can't give me those. But at least give me some respect and hear me. If I say rather this than that, then I should be able to influence the rules of the game, not these foreign people who say, okay, this should be the way you regulate
यस
the sector. making it easier for them and harder for our people in
Yes,
India.
women always were um, working at home. It has been so all over the world. But of late, they started stepping out. And they started stepping out. It is not just only for money, sir. There are various other reasons because they were ill treated. So if we actually drill down, there are a lot of nuances to it than just money. So it is the society came to ill-treat them. That's why in South Korea, the 4B movement started somewhere in 2010. And that is still has gathered a lot of steam, and it is still being spoken about because women got fed up of the kind of inequality and ill treatment meted to them in wherever, everywhere, starting from home as a unit, where women have decided that, you know, if I have to produce a child and I have to bear the trouble of bearing and rearing, and also not knowing whether the person who supports me would look after me forever, because he tends to step out of marriage and then go elsewhere. And this has been predominant in the past. But of late, it is tolerance level in marriages are reducing, which is why women are not taking it. It is not that men have changed, sir. It's just that women's perspective has. So it
You're
depends
very
just
right to
on,
put it. Men have
like,
that
sir,
in-
if I have a daughter and if I say, okay, you just look after your child and your husband will take care of you, don't you worry. How do I completely repose that trust on my son-in-law, saying that he will forever look after because you look how the social fabric is, how things are. Marriages are no more, it is not a certification of permanency. How can you tell a woman, just keep looking after your child and take care of the child? And what if the
I'm not, I think you're misunderstanding, and I'm glad you brought this up because, I have been writing about this and speaking about this, and you picked it up too. And I get a lot of bombardment from my women feminist friends that, I'm sort of punishing women and putting them back into the box of just being producers of children and looking after the meals of the family at home. And I say, look, I'm being misunderstood because, yes, there is a need to respect women much more. That's the foundational part. And why more recently, and not was always not so, but more recently, recently in the last 400-500 years in the West and then coming towards us in the East, women are were less respected than men because men could earn more. And so, if you're going to value every human being by how much money the person is able to earn by himself or herself as an individual, that is the worth of the individual, then obviously anyone who's doing a job for which the money paid is a less worthy individual. So stay with this. If the worth of an individual is determined by how much money the person is paid for the work that they do, yes, then a woman at home who's paid nothing for the work she does is worth zero. Also, let's go further, that if a man is doing nursing work or doing ghar mein jhadu pota work, how much is a man paid? Is suddenly the man going to be paid a CEO salary? No. The man is also going to be paid equivalent to what we consider the work to be worth. This is demeaning jhadu pota work, right? And so, go next, nursing work. If a man says that, I'm working as a nurse, immediately the father-in-law will tell to the daughter, you're marrying a nurse? There's good movies about this, as you know, lovely Western movies. Yeah? Suddenly the father-in-law discovers that the man who's working in John Hopkins Hospital is actually working as a male nurse, and he gets upset with his daughter, and say, you're a qualified professional person and a lawyer. Why are you marrying this fellow who's doing womanly work? This is not work for a man. And of course that man happens to be, this is an American movie, a chap who worked in the American army. And for him, when a man's work is going out and killing things and using brute force, nursing and caring for people, gosh, a man doing that is an unworthy human being, according to him. So it comes to the work we associate a person with and the money that we are willing to give for that sort of work. And so, Julie, I come to the caste system of our country. Let's say women are oppressed in India and everywhere in the world. In our society in India, the most oppressed people are the people we call the lower castes. We call them lower castes because of the work that they are born to do and must remain to do. Our caste system is a work-based classification system. Those who do white-collar knowledge work are the Brahmins. Those who do the fighting work and control things are the Kshatriyas, right? But the next class, the highest are the Brahmins, and close to them, just behind them are these others. Then used to come the people who make money, the Vaishnavas, the traders. They were lesser than these two upper castes. And all three together were above the people who use their own hands to do various sorts of work, some considered dirtier than others. And so all the working classes are the backward classes. We first had the scheduled caste, then the other backward castes. And so when we talk about measuring them, which we're going to do once again in the surveys, and why has this survey become essential, the caste-based survey? It's for economic reasons. Our country's come to the situation, Julie, where upper caste people, Brahmin people in Gujarat began to shout and say that they need reservations in schools, colleges, and in jobs. And I said, but why? They said, we're not able to earn enough. So then all this has gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has agreed that the Constitution could be sort of breached by allowing economically backward castes to have reservation. Economically backward castes. They're economically backward, these people, because of the work that they do or because they can't find enough work to do. So it comes down to it's an economic problem. And it's an economic problem that our society is not generating, our economy is not generating enough decent jobs where a person can work in, let me say, in safety and comfort inside their own house, if they so wish, doing what they wish, and they're good at it. That's how a person gets fulfilled. I want to do what I care to do, and which makes me feel fulfilled and makes me feel a good human being. And if you don't pay me for it, and because you start valuing everybody only by how much money they earn, then I as a woman want to go out to prove that I'm as good as you are. And when I go out to work, like maybe in the armed forces also, you have to learn to work the way men work, to take tough decisions to kill just a man would. Okay? And so I find it rather sad that the heroes that we find in our movies now are also women dressed like men, shooting more than men, kicking people harder than men. I mean, okay, that's work, but that is not necessarily the work that society needs more of. We don't need more peacemakers like Trump, who says, I'll go and shoot everybody and thereby create peace in the world. We want more people like Gandhiji, who say, please let's not be violent. Let's have peace by caring for each other, respecting each other. Yes? And look at the most marginalized first, as he said, Anantodaya. In every decision that you take, just think of the poorest, least powerful person. How can you be, by your life, by what you do in your life, caring for this person's student? And that is my idea of the firefly. And I found this idea by looking around my country, India, and saying in spite of our country being poor, in spite of our people, especially in the rural areas, village areas, and generally even, being so deprived of infrastructure, facilities and respect, how come in many parts of India, the well-being of people generally is still very good, is getting better. Yes. Kerala, for example, but many other places one found, micro places all over the country. It was always young women.
Yes, sir. Even
Women.
nowadays, sir.
Women. Exactly, women. And these women, that's why I say my model of a firefly is a woman who does something which is just enough maybe for her own immediate family or community, but it's about caring for them. And they are changing the lives of other people, improving the lives of other people without any compensation, or they get a little. And so going further with that, Julie, we're talking about in our country, when you say that we are employing people and not employing them well, right now, once again, there's another protest by ASHA workers. They're out, and forget even where, I think it's in Bengal now. They've been coming out repeatedly over the last 4 or 5 years that look, we are out of our own homes in the villages or wherever, leaving, if they have children or older people behind, if they have, and they do, then, and we look after other people in these little community centers, ASHA workers, or in schools, Anganwadi workers, and how much are they paid?
In fact, the
2,000
nurses in
rupees a month.
Kerala, the reason why they are moving out of Kerala and going to other places is because of the kind of income which they are getting in Kerala. The hospitals pay them just
Exactly.
12,000 or so, which is very small amounts
Exactly.
compared to the service they
Exactly.
render.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And that's what I say, that if we were to say that the government should spend more on social services, public services, and what would it spend on then? It would spend on school teachers, it would spend on public health, nurses. So the women would be paid more, but by whom? By the government. Because the people to whom the nurses provide service in the villages, they don't have the money to pay the nurses. The mothers of the children or the fathers of the children in the village schools, or who go to government schools in the cities, they don't have money to pay. The government has to pay. And that is what you would say is a socialist or a communist model, that the public services are run by the public sector. And Kerala is notorious amongst economists for having a too large a public sector,
Yes.
yes, and too small a private sector. And more recently, I have been to Kerala along with my colleagues in Helpage International, of which I was the chair, because we in Helpage International, let me tell you, see, organization created some 30, 40 years ago to say all over the world people are getting older and they're not getting enough respect and they don't have enough pensions and they live longer, not enough money to look after themselves, and the children don't have time to take care of them. They're not with them sometimes, but even with them they don't feel they have the time to take care of them. So the world is having an old age crisis. And it's an economic crisis because governments don't have enough money to keep providing pensions, and the medical assistance that older people need is even more expensive, and certainly the government doesn't have enough money for that when it doesn't have enough money to take care of the needs of
Yes.
children, their nutrition and their health. So there's an economic crisis to do with the care of people. With the older people growing up is just making it worse. And Korea is the problem, by the way. Go back and study China and Korea and Singapore. This is the problem. That fine, the women are staying at work and they should, but the older people, they could be, and they're generally women actually, the older women, they live longer. There's no one caring for her, so she ends up in, destitution, right, and complete neglect. So even for solving the woman's problem when she's older, we just have to change the way we value caregiving work. It shouldn't have to be valued higher only because it's paid more money. And if that's the way to value it, I come back, then society should find an economic model in which caregiving work is
Yes, sir.
paid more than it is today. And I say the private sector obviously will not, because the private sector has to have money for whatever service
Sir.
it provides. And if the older person who is getting the care, or the mother of poor children whose children need care is poor, or family is poor, who's going to pay this private sector provider? So they neglect these people, or when they give them the service, they get into debt, those people. Like our public health, hospital service in India, people are running into further and further debts. Yes, they can get loans for education. People can get loans for their insurance for their medical, but they just become destitute to pay off all the debts that they get when they get these problems in their lives. Medical emergencies or the need and desire to educate their children, girls and boys. It's just horrible. I could tell you many stories about my driver who was sharing with me stories about his family, his father and his brothers and their children. But I don't know how much time you have, but stories.
So thank you so much, sir, for being part of this conversation. It was a complete honor conversing with you, complete honor. I feel enriched in my thought very candidly.